Good morning, everybody. Steph and me here on April 1st, 2020 for our studio jumpstart. Um, Wondering how everybody's doing with the coronavirus stuff and being isolated. Um, it's what we're all doing now. So feel free. We have a lot of videos. Go to the Creative Nectar channel, and there's a lot of prompts and stuff for you to use during this time. That being said, I wanted to work with our eyes this morning. In one of our last groups, we had a conversation about being in the fog and not being able to see, and which is what this time feels like right now. And so this is a sensing exploration that really pays attention to the eyes, because most of us, when we get tension and we can't see, we reach out with our eyes. So we're going to work with bringing our eyes back in. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do, and I've never asked people to do this before online, but this is an exploration that I use a lot when I have a lot of tension in my head. So the first thing is, I'm going to have you lay down on the floor. Because it's a exploration that works much better if you're laying down. So find a comfortable place in your studio to lay down. And once you're on the floor, close your eyes. And laying on the floor, give yourself to the pull of gravity. Sinking down onto the floor a little more. Places that don't sink down, don't worry about them. It's just how much of yourself can you give to gravity. And then, breathing naturally, begin gently exploring around your eyes. Really feel the boniness of the skull that's around your eyes that protects them. Letting your fingertips get to know the ridges and hardness of that boniness. You may even want to explore the shape of your eye sockets. And it may require a lighter touch. And then the softness of the eyeballs, just with the very tips of your fingers, to feel them and their shape. And allow yourself to stay with that if that's feeling really good. The next thing I'm going to ask you to do is just tap around your eyeballs, and maybe over your eyeballs very lightly, and around that bony structure. And as you tap, see if you can allow your eyes to drop back down into your head, just to be cradled there in the sockets, breathing naturally. And then let your hands just rest over your eyes, breathing naturally, feeling the places that may have awakened when you tapped and allowed your fingers to explore. And then let your hands come away from your eyes, but don't open your eyes yet. And slowly come to standing. Taking as long as you need. Checking in and seeing how your eyes feel. If there was a softness that you experienced, is that softness still there, or did it shift as you came to standing? And now I'm going to ask you to slowly open your eyes, keeping the softness that may have arrived there, and move to your scribble page and scribble. Actually, what I want you to do is move to your scribble page and see if that scribble page can come to you into the softness of your eyes instead of you looking at the scribble page and wondering, how am I going to start? And then we'll scribble for a few minutes, and then we'll work with the writing prompt and do some silent time creating. And now we'll go into the writing prompt. And the writing prompt for now is, how does taking the time to be with myself, with my senses, enrich me? and keep writing, or go back to your scribble, or you can move into your book. And Steph and I will see you on the flip side.
Okay.
So, not sure where to begin. We're in a really incredibly difficult and challenging time. It may go on for a long time without us knowing when it's going to end. So for me, a lot of panic. It's not panic. It's just sort of, it's being saturated. I mean, I think this is an interesting thing right now. And it's why I chose to do the I thing, because I think we're so looking often for a way out, and we're in a time where possibly it's about the way in and finding space there that we can move from. So if you're feeling a lot of saturation, a lot of grief, along with many other things, because we're all holding so much at once, the I exploration we did this morning really helps me to settle down into myself. I came to the studio this morning, and I'm working in tiny places, but my energy was so yearning for just a big tantrum. But this is where I'm at, just like this is where we're at with the coronavirus in our lives. And actually the exploration and then the scribble really helped me come back to my journal and to savor the small spaces. And to realize that in those small spaces, when my feeling saturated in grief and overwhelm can kind of be pulled down in a way out of me by gravity, then I can come back and inhabit these small spaces that are actually quite comforting and sweet and tender. And that's not much of what I felt over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Preparing, being ready, not getting clear information, let my political sideshow, being lied to and gaslit. It just creates such a muddle in us. And if we can find ways to settle into something, and that's what I found happening today.
Yeah, I completely agree about the saturation and the overwhelm. I too have been feeling that. I've been feeling more of a need to just, and I was telling you this earlier, Sarah, to just feel, to just be in stillness. And I struggle a little bit with that because I'm home all the time anyway. I do this work from home. I'm a homebody. I have chronic illness, blah blah blah. I'm just a home person. So I was like, piece of cake, right? Mm-mm. It's still, this is so different. This is so different because of the unknowns and sitting with the unknowns and the bombardments of information, and we don't know if it's true or not, just all of this saturation. So I have to say it was such a good reminder to be lying on the floor today, that the floor is, there's something about the support and then the gravity that pulls and grounds, and that was just, it was a good reminder. It was really good. And the eyes too. Wow. There's, like you said, there's something about doing that, giving yourself that stillness and that pulling of the gravity and the grounding that then allows for something else to arise. Like you were saying, temper or tantrum, and I know exactly the agitation that I'm feeling. But once we did the grounding work on the ground, I had space for these small little orbs that I'm doing, and it felt really good.
Hmm.
And I don't know, had we not done that, if there would have been space there for that. And that would have been okay too, I guess. I mean, I could have just scribbled some more as well, but yeah, it's just it's an interesting, weird time.
Hmm. And for me, because it's such a weird time, I realize probably 9 times out of 10, I could have a tantrum
Hmm. Yep.
because either fear's up or and worry or um, antsiness. Like you, I'm a homebody, and it's been interesting to find. For me, it's not having. I am a homebody, and I like being a homebody when I have a choice to go somewhere. And all of a sudden, now there's no choices. And so it just and that overwhelms me. You know, we're so used to that freedom of choice, but there isn't that choice. Um, and so where do I go when I don't have choices? The only place I know to go is lay on the floor and go inside.
Mm, that's true.
Um, can I relax? Can I let my eyeballs follow that trajectory of gravity and just sink back into that spongy place that is in our eye sockets and not be so looking for out of myself for something that's
Yeah.
going, that I either have to protect myself against or over plan going to get what I need and there's that. I think it's when I come back into myself and I'm just there on the floor and my fingertips are exploring my eyes and I'm breathing. I know in my head not everything's right in the world, but I know in my body that everything's right in me right now.
Yeah.
And so to come back, to have had that experience and to have scribbled some of that antsy energy out, and then to come back to a piece and be as tender with it as I was on the floor with my eyes.
Mm,
Um, I just feel like the more I can do that right now, the more and I believe this for all of us, the more we're able to meet what is. And what is highly uncomfortable right now and chaotic and not and uncertain. And most of us like less chaos, more certainty.
yeah. Yeah, it is. I agree. And that is for me too, the only certainty is within.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why I've been called more and more to the stillness, because I can join a million Zoom groups, which I've, been doing for a while, but it's too much. I
Mm-hmm.
like doing Zoom and I like doing working in this way, but then it's really good that we do what we do because we can discern when it's too much, with our
Right.
bodies. And that's part of what this process teaches us.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. I can't imagine going through something like this without some sort of practice.
Yeah, I agree. And and if you don't have a practice, it's a great time to start to build one
Yeah,
in tiny little steps, even if it's just the practice of I'm going to lay on the floor every day and explore my eyeballs.
yeah,
The body begins to remember that there is this place that is outside of the madness of what's happening in the world. And it gives us some breathing room, which I really value these days, that breathing room. And I think that comes from the stillness.
mm,
And and I think we as humans have a hard time not being. We want to be busy, and we are getting a big dose of stillness from the universe to rest. to reflect, to be more present. And so in that way, I'm astounded by the gifts that are in this, and also really overwhelmed by I want it to be done with so I can get on with it, and overwhelmed with the grief and the suffering, and where do we put that stuff? For me, it's in the scribble, it's in the breathing, it's in the art, making art without judgment, without knowing where it's going. It can be very chaotic, and in silence, and holding that silence to create. And now I'd like to do some shameless promotion after doing that. If you've been following us and following our studio jump starts, and you are at home on doing the isolation, social distancing things, and feeling the rub of that, Steph and I do offer 2 sessions a week that are in the studio. It's with other people. We gather in silence to create. We have a writing prompt. We do a sensing exploration. And for me, that the twice a week, Wednesday morning and Sunday morning, has been it's like coming to your meditation hall to sit, or to your church and be with people to pray. And we do this online, so you are in your home studio, but you are also with a group. And if that has some interest for you or might sustain you through this time, check it out. The information's on my website. I'm lagging behind getting some other information up, but Steph has her information up on her website, and that's Steph Gray Art.
I'm going to put all the links on at the bottom of this post. So
okay, we'll continue our shameless promotion, and we'll include our websites. And you don't have to check them out. You can just continue to use these if that's floating your boat. But if you're wanting a little more contact with people, what I like to think about is really we're all in physical isolation, and there is a way we can get our social connection. It's different than how it's been, but just I'm finding being together with the people who come to our groups on Wednesday and Sunday morning, it is nourishing and sustaining, and we invite you to join us if you're interested.
Yes, please, we love it.
So everybody take care, stay safe, and we'll see you on May 1st.
Bye, everybody.